Hello, thought I'd just do a quick update on the XL-Desk and where it's at and the slots that I've put in on the 500 series stuff, what I've chosen and why. Filled it up now and you can see on the first 8 slots I've gone with the SSL EQs. The reason I've done that is it's just the easiest way to do it actually, so that these are all the same, so I don't really have to think about which of these first 8 channels I use for something. I had these EQs over here before and it was less versatile that way for reasons that I'll explain in a minute. So yeah, the E-Series EQ is really good EQ, really powerful. I'm using it mostly in recording, sometimes in mixing, but I'm trying to use quite similar settings when I use it in mixing so that it's quite recallable, and then I just take photos of them the way that they're set up. So the first 8 channels have the SSL preamps on them. I'll put a link to the video. I did a video about the whole console before. I'll put a link there. Next up, I've got my Rupert Neve Designs 1042s. These are tape emulators, and I'm using these exclusively on my mix bus. I have tracked a couple of things to them occasionally. They're really cool. One slight gripe with them is that the silk mode doesn't stay in the mode that it was when you power cycle the console. I'm using them in a variety of ways. That changing the inches per second does change where the hump is, you know, so it's sort of giving a bit of an EQ curve, and the hump, like on all tape machines, the hump is a little bit lower at 15 inches per second than at 30. I mean, this isn't a tape machine, obviously, it's just emulating it, I think, with sort of transformers and stuff, but it definitely adds something to the sound. On this desk, you can switch these straight in to the master bus using this switch here. So if I press 500, it now switches these into the mix bus rather than them being on channels 9 and 10. Then I've got some CAP EQs. These are like API EQs, BT50s, so like API 550As essentially. And these can switch into mix B. So at the moment they're on channels 11 and 12 and they're activated with this 500 series button here. But if I press 500 here, they switch into mix B now. So you've got like a parallel mix that you can EQ. Or if I did that and then I send any channels to mix B, I could send them through the EQ, and then I could just record the output of mix B back into Pro Tools, and I would have EQ'd through those on the way in. And that's why I've chosen these EQs for these slots, because I do actually use them in that way quite a lot. Say if I was recording guitars, I might have 3 microphones for my guitars somewhere, and then I could send them to mix B, pan them all left, which would send them to this EQ if I wanted to, and then I can print that EQ out, and then I'm just printing one track for my guitars, committing to the sound on the way in, rather than it becoming options paralysis on mixing. I'm a big fan of that, because if I'm making a decision, I want to make a decision now rather than kicking the decision further down the road. I think I have to trust my ears as I'm recording it to decide that that is how I want the guitar to be. If I make the decision later on, there's lots of other decisions to make in the mix anyway, and ultimately it's getting the job done quicker and being creative in the recording process rather than just documenting what's there. You're actually making the decision and committing to it. The next slot are these 560s, which are API graphic EQs. So it's a similar thing really. So, you know, I really like using these on a kick drum. Used quite a lot on a kick drum by lots of different engineers, and again, it, you know, switchable to mix C for that. The API 529 is up next. That is 529. So this is like the 2500, the famous bus compressor from API, and this is a 500 series version of it. And again, so if something comes in on channels 15 and 16, they can go through this compressor and I can compress on the way in. Or if I wanted to compress absolutely anything or a mixture of things together and compress them on the way in, they can just go to bus D, switch it in on bus D. In mixing, I'm tending to use this on the drums mostly as a parallel compressor for the drums. I really like doing that. It seems to thicken the texture of the drums and just gets me a really finished sound straight away. Next up, we've got the G Series bus compressor, which unfortunately for some crazy reason SSL didn't include this on the patch bay. So the only place that we can access this on is the master bus. It switches in with this comp button. I've recently upgraded my speakers to some ATC SCM25As. I might do a little video about that and why I've done that. And I've got 8 1073s now. So the way that the desk is working is the first 8 are fed from the SSL preamps, and then the next 8 are fed from the 1073s over here. If anybody has any questions about the XL-Desk or any aspect of the studio, any decisions that I've made, any other bits of gear that you see, please let me know in the comments below. And, you know, do give the video a like, subscribe to the channel if you're interested in what I'm doing. And if you want to come and record with me, please do.